Welcome back, guys, to another tutorial. In this tutorial we are going to be looking at creating the static VHS tape, cassette tape that you see in the Resident Evil 7 game and trailer. So it's really nice, old school bad static. Looks like the video's been left out for a while. Here's what I mean. So there's sort of three parts to this, and we're going to break it down and create each part. So we've got a smaller flicker here, then we have the static and the thicker layers of static. Again, just emulating that Resident Evil 7 feel. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new composition. Make sure your composition is HD. That's 1920 by 1080. And the whole thing can be, let's say, roughly about 4 seconds long. Cool. So I'm going to import my picture. I've got a generic horror picture here. And this is what I'm going to use. But obviously, if you can use anything in this, it worked really nice on a video. If you're creating a unique video, or you're just going for that old school VHS feel. Awesome. So we're ready to start. The first thing we're going to do is create just a generic static. And the way we're going to do that is by creating two solids. So we want a new solid and set this one to white. Hit OK. And a new solid and set this one to black. Then hit OK. And on the top one, we're going to set this to dancing dissolve and drop the opacity. So we're about half, should be fine. And if we hit play, it looks like that. Old school static. We're going to group these together in a pre-comp. So select both, right click and press pre-compose and call it static, because we want to edit the static in itself as a layer, not as two individual solids. Cool. So we're just starting by creating that first static. Let's switch our blend mode. If you don't already have blend modes open, it's this third option down here in the bottom left. Toggle that on and try something like overlay. And immediately we can see that sort of take effect like a really old video. Now, I don't sort of want it consistently like this. What I want is it to turn off and on. And I could mess with the opacity or move my layers, but what I'm going to do is use a strobe effect. So I'm going to go stylize strobe light and switch this to transparent. So if we hit play, what should happen is it should turn off and on. And it does. But I actually want it to do it a lot more frequently than that. So strobe, like all the time, quickly. And maybe add a 10 random. Excellent. Excellent. Could probably even add a little bit more random. So I suppose the more random this sort of is, the better it's going to look. Cool. That is our static done. So we don't want our static to start straight away. In fact, we want to start about on the second mark. What we want first is going to be the flicker. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this, Control D, and drag this left about here. Now, I don't want the strobe effect on. Done with that. That's just for a static. In here, what we're going to do is switch it back to normal real quick, blend mode normal, and create a few bars. So make sure you've got your layer selected and grab your rectangle and just create a few sort of flicker bars. I mean, there's no sort of exact science to this. Maybe that's sort of too much. I might actually get rid of, is it mask 2? Yeah. And I'm actually going to shrink mask 1 down a little bit. Cool. So this is going to be our flicker. So we've set this up. What we want to do next is apply a color correction, just so it fits in a bit nicer. Let's find hue and saturation, and just sort of play with this so it blends in a bit more. Awesome. And could maybe even try like a darken. Ooh, no, I think it's too dark, isn't it? What about maybe a multiply? No, you know, I'm going to leave it as normal with my color correction, with my hue and saturation. And maybe just drop the opacity a little bit. Cool. Alright, so now we've got that set up. There's one more effect that I want to put on that, and that is going to be a roughen edges. So I'm going to go across to my effects panel over here and type in roughen edges and drag and drop that in there. Because what we want to do is we don't actually want these sort of thick lines here. We're going to go rusty, pump this upper sector full just so we can see everything. And you see how we're starting to get a bit of lines around here? We won't mind a bit more of those. So play with the numbers a bit until we bring out a few more. Nice, that's pretty cool. And over time we are going to just alter the evolution on this. So it's going to look like it's moving. Cool. Alright, let's watch that back. Nice. Looking pretty good. Pretty good. Cool. Alright, we can move that out of the way. So, because this is a flicker, I'm going to first of all rename it to flicker. And we almost want a 2-frame thing where it's just going up and down, up and down. So I'm going to go to position and I'm going to zoom in a lot. Zoom in a lot. Let me just drag that over here for now. I'm going to highlight my position. Oops. Grab my playhead first. Highlight my position, set on my keyframe. Go a frame forward. And I'm just going to drag it down a little bit. Maybe drag my first point up a bit too. So we're just going to have flicking between these two. And for ease, I'm just going to keep copying and pasting this, and this will quickly get easier. So Control C, Control V. Alright, let's have a look, see how that looks. That's pretty good. Pretty good, I'm pretty happy with that. But to sell it a bit more, I'm just going to select a couple of keyframes here and there and just delete them. So again, adding that like random frame break, sort of feel to it. So that's not going to start straight away, and I would say that is the flicker done. Why is my preview? Weird. Let's see how that looks with everything. Nice, that's pretty cool. Excellent. So there's just one final point that we want to sell, and it's almost what we've done here, but a bit thicker. So I'm going to go across here again and Control D for duplicate, and we're going to call this one Big Static. Big Static. And we're going to turn off our strobe again and just hide this one for now. Come back up to normal. And we're going to use a few presets in here. Stop it. So let's go across to our presets, and this time we're going to use something called Bad TV. Come straight up, Bad TV, weak, and slap that on there. Let me just drop the opacity a bit so I can sort of see through. And let's have a look at how that looks. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Bouncing around a little bit. So at this point, what I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to make a few more rectangles. So these ones can be a bit thicker as well because, you know, there are major strobe points. You know, that'll do. I'm just going to grab this one and move it down. Oops. I double clicked by accident. Cool. Alright, so that is set up. Excellent. We've got our masks for our big statics, and we've got our bad TV. But we're not done there. What else we want to do is put a bit of motion on these. We're actually going to put a preset, again, a position wiggle. And what that's going to do is going to make it bounce around a little bit. I'd actually like it to bounce around faster. So I'm going to increase the speed and maybe drop the amount to about 40. And yeah, we can already see it sort of bouncing around. Cool. And if we bring that up with our background static as well, let's get a bit of an idea of how that looks. That looks pretty cool. That looks pretty cool. Yeah, I'm happy with that. So I mean, if you're not, there's like a whole host of like options in here that you can sort of play with as well, to create like different sort of effects. It's probably better to touch darker. And like you could sort of play around in these into like your heart's content and create sort of different effects. Cool. But for me, I'm relatively happy enough with the preset. So there's just one more step to this, and we are going to put on another effect. If I stop doing that, and we're going to put on a griddle. A griddle. And what a griddle is going to do is, if I drag this vertical slice and pull it left, it's going to look like we've got even more smaller smaller bars and whatnot. So we sort of wanted to, if it's flicking between those with the position and stuff, this is where we're really going to sell it. So it's Alt-click the stopwatch, Alt-click, and that's going to bring up your expression editor and stuff down here. if you click on the arrow pointing right, we're just going to put a random number in. Random number. So let's press play and see how that looks. We can barely see it. They're really thin lines. What we actually want to do is define this a bit more. We want to say only pick a random number between minus 100, comma 100. So I think that should do it. Let's check it out. Press play. Maybe if I drop this from full to half, it should go a bit faster. Yeah. See how that sort of looks there? Looks pretty cool. Might try a couple of blend modes, see how that looks. No, don't know why I keep going back to darken, it's not very good. Let's try a linear light. No. Try an overlay. Darken color. Multiply. You know what? I think I just like it sort of this way. I just drop the opacity a bit more. Cool. That looks pretty good. Pretty good. Only actually need about 3 seconds of it though. And like if you are using video, what'd be really cool as well is, you know, like when you're doing your flicker up and down, if you just got this position and then put it on here, and when you're doing it, you sort of like pasted that, it would look like the image is flicking with you. I think that that'd really help sell the whole thing. And again, that's sort of something you can sort of apply here. That sort of bad TV flicker presets are always going to be good here. But for the most part, that is how we create these sort of static effects, the static bars that you see in the Resident Evil 7 game. Which, by the way, how cool does that game look? And I should be picking that up today. Pretty excited about it. Yeah, hope you enjoyed it and you actually get to use this effect. Have some fun with it. Thanks for watching.